Okay, let's start with the story. A really powerful one, actually. Imagine this. A humble inventor from Tondo, right here in the Philippines.
Hmm.
And against all odds, he creates something huge, like world-changing, the fluorescent lamp.
Right, that bright, efficient light we see everywhere.
Exactly. Picture Agapito Flores, unhappy with dim lights, working away, maybe late nights. And he makes this amazing light in a bottle.
The legend then says he shows it to President Quezon.
Yes, who's just, blown away. And then supposedly General Electric swoops in, buys the patent.
And the name fluorescent even comes from Flores. That's part of the story, too.
That's the tale. And for so many Filipinos, this wasn't just some story. It was taught in school, elementary, high school. It was presented as fact.
A real source of national pride embedded early on.
So here's the big question we're tackling today. How often do we hear these stories, these things that make us feel so proud, so connected, only to find out later that, well, maybe they're not quite the whole truth, or even true at all?
And that's exactly what this deep dive is about. We're going to unpack this incredible, really persistent story about Agapito Flores.
Yeah.
We'll look at how widely it was believed, examine the actual facts, or maybe the lack of them,
Right.
and really dig into what this whole situation tells us about how we get information, how we share it, and sometimes maybe how we distort it, even unintentionally.
Because it's bigger than just one inventor, isn't it? It's about how myths get started.
Exactly, how they grow, get passed down.
And what happens when these cherished stories bump up against cold, hard facts? We'll look at the real history of fluorescent lights.
Which is actually pretty fascinating in itself.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then try to understand why this specific false story became so popular and, well, why it's still around. It touches on identity, critical thinking, the whole package.
It really does.
Okay, so let's just lay out the classic Agapito Flores myth again, the one taught for years.
Yeah, let's refresh.
Poor inventor, Tondo, couldn't finish school, big dream, make a light as bright as the sun.
The ambition.
His invention, the fluorescent light, made from a bottle, supposedly. Brighter, more efficient.
Then the big moment, showing it to President Quezon.
Who was, naturally, amazed, quote unquote.
Of course. Then the claim, GE buys the patent, mass production follows, and the name fluorescent from Flores.
Right, the surname connection.
And sometimes you'd even hear this little detail. He now resides in Paris, France.
Wow, quite the journey from Tondo. It's a compelling narrative, you have to admit. Triumph over adversity, global recognition.
If only it were true.
And it's stunning just how many people believed it and how consistently it was told. Our sources mention people saying they heard the exact same story in, like, first grade.
Wow.
Then again in fourth grade, and even ninth grade. It wasn't just folklore. It was in textbooks, approved textbooks, review centers, too.
So it was systemic.
Pretty much. And the feeling it generated, people said believing a Filipino invented something so ubiquitous, quote, makes you want to go out and wave your flag in pride. The emotional connection is undeniable. It really is powerful. So let me ask you, listening right now, did you grow up with this story? Was this part of your education?
Yeah.
And how does it feel hearing now very clearly that it's an urban legend? I imagine for some, it's a bit jarring.
Well, let's get into the facts.
Yeah.
Let's systematically dismantle the myth with the actual history. First off, that name connection, fluorescent, from Flores.
Yeah, that sounds plausible on the surface.
It does, but it's completely wrong. The term fluorescence was coined way back in 1852.
1852.
Yes, by an Irish physicist, George Gabriel Stokes.
Yeah.
He named it after a mineral, fluorspar, to describe a scientific effect absorbing light, then re-emitting it.
Okay.
Now, the key thing here, this was 45 years before Agapito Flores was even born.
Wow. Okay, so that connection is just impossible.
Completely impossible.
Yeah.
The word existed long before the supposed inventor.
Got it. So where did the lamp itself come from?
Well, the scientific idea started even earlier. A French physicist, Alexandre Becquerel, he theorized about fluorescent tubes way back in 1857.
So the concept was floating around for a while.
Exactly. Then came the actual attempts, the prototypes.
Thomas Edison.
The Thomas Edison.
Yep, that one. He filed a patent for a fluorescent lamp in 1896, got it in 1907. But his version used X-rays.
X-rays. That sounds dangerous.
Was. Big radiation poisoning concern, so it was never commercially made.
Okay, so Edison tried, but that wasn't it.
Yet. The real precursor to modern fluorescent lights was patented by an American, Peter Cooper Hewitt, in 1901.
1901.
Yes. His was a low-pressure mercury vapor lamp. It worked, but it gave off a kind of greenish light.
Greenish light. Okay. Now, when was Flores born again?
Agapito Flores was born September 28, 1897.
So wait, 1897, Hewitt patented his lamp in 1901.
Meaning Flores was only 4 years old when Hewitt patented the first practical, though not perfect, fluorescent type lamp.
Right. 4 years old, clearly not inventing it then. The timeline just doesn't work.
Not at all. And the development didn't stop there. It was a long road with many contributors.
Like who else? Well, Georges Claude in France improved things in 1909 using argon gas for a bluer light. Then a really key step came in 1929 from Jacques Rissler.
What did he do?
He figured out how to coat the inside of the tube with fluorescent material. That's what made the light white, like we know today.
Ah, the coating. Okay, that makes sense.
And General Electric. They were involved, but not by buying a patent from Flores.
So how were they involved?
They bought up most of these existing patents, Hewitt's, Claude's, Riesler's work, and then their own engineers did a lot of work developing the practical stuff, like the ballasts, the electrodes, making it reliable for mass production.
I see. Building on others' work and refining it.
Exactly. And they finally launched their commercial fluorescent lamp in 1939.
1939 at the New York World's Fair, right?
That's the one. A big public debut.
Okay, but what about that meeting with President Quezon? Is there any truth to that part?
Well, this is interesting. Dr. Benita Vergara from the Philippine Science Heritage Center did mention a statement about a Flores presenting an idea to Quezon.
Ah, so maybe something happened.
Possibly. But Dr. Vergara clarifies that any such meeting would have definitely been after 1939, after GE had already launched the lamp globally.
So even if a meeting happened, it couldn't have been Flores presenting the invention of the lamp.
Precisely. It might have been about something else entirely, or maybe a proposal related to the existing technology,
Right.
but absolutely not the original invention. And bottom line, there are 0 official records, 0 patents, 0 credible evidence anywhere linking an Agapito Flores to the invention of the fluorescent lamp.
Okay, let's process this. So the real story is, it's complicated. It involves scientists and inventors from different countries over many, many decades. It wasn't one guy in a lab having a eureka moment.
Not at all. It was gradual, cumulative innovation. Stokes, Becquerel, Edison, Hewitt, Claude, Riesler, GE's engineers, a whole chain of people.
And Agapito Flores, just not part of that verifiable chain. The name fluorescent predates him by decades. He was a child when the key early patents were filed.
The historical record is quite clear on this.
So the story many of us learned, it's a complete myth, a fabrication.
Yes, a fascinating one, but a myth nonetheless.
Which brings us back to that really important question, doesn't it?
It really does. Why? Why do stories like this, stories that are demonstrably false, take such deep root?
Especially in a national context, why get woven into the fabric of identity?
Yeah, why become something taught to kids for generations?
Well, I guess part of it must be that desire for heroes, right? That Pinoy pride factor.
Absolutely. The appeal of Filipino ingenuity, wanting to claim major world contributions. It feels good.
It validates a sense of national capability, maybe? Especially on a global stage.
For sure. We all want to see ourselves reflected in major achievements. But is this just a universal thing, or is there something more specific going on here?
That's what I wonder. Are there specific reasons it stuck so hard in the Philippines?
Well, the sources we looked at point to a few potential factors, some quite systemic. One major one, the education system itself.
You mentioned the textbooks earlier.
Exactly. The myth persisted because it was literally printed in DECS-approved, now Deep Ed textbooks. Teachers taught it.
Wow.
Some accounts say it was still being taught as late as 2024 in some places. That points to, frankly, issues with the quality control of textbooks.
A lack of fact-checking.
A serious lack of fact-checking in the curriculum development process, it seems.
Yeah.
If it's in the book, it gets taught as truth.
That's concerning.
It is. Then there's the context of when these stories might have gained traction. Some speculate it could have been during the martial law era.
Why then?
Well, it was a time with very limited access to diverse information sources. Information control was tight.
Right.
So it's plausible that narratives like this could have been encouraged, perhaps even deliberately, to boost national morale or, quote, advance so-called Filipino pride without much room for questioning.
Like a form of propaganda, almost.
Potentially. Or at least an environment where myths could flourish unchallenged.
And there's another angle, too, right? Something deeper, maybe psychologically.
Yes. Some sociologists suggest these kinds of grand, often exaggerated or false, stories can sometimes be a way to, quote, overcompensate for a lack of self-assurance.
How so?
If a group feels discriminated against or constantly defined by outsiders, Creating these internal narratives of exceptionalism can be a defense mechanism, a way to build identity, even if it's on shaky ground.
Like trying to build yourself up from the inside when the outside view feels negative. That's quite profound.
It is. It suggests these myths aren't just simple mistakes. They might serve a deeper social or psychological need, however unhealthy in the long run.
And you mentioned earlier, this isn't the only example of this kind of story in the Philippines, is it?
No, not at all. Once you start looking, you see a pattern. The Agapito Flores story fits into a larger context of similar invention myths.
Right, like Eduardo San Juan and the lunar rover.
Exactly. The story often paints him as the inventor. The reality, he was a talented aerospace engineer, he worked at NASA, and he did contribute to designs for a lunar roving vehicle concept.
But not the Apollo lunar rover that actually went to the moon.
Correct. He was part of a team working on concepts, but not the inventor of the final vehicle used in the Apollo missions. It's a subtle but important distinction that often gets lost, elevating contribution to sole invention.
Inflating the role. Okay, what else?
Then there's the strange case of Armando Light, or sometimes Armando Literio.
The Armalite rifle inventor?
Supposedly. But this person, they simply don't exist.
Yeah.
The Armalite was developed by Armalite, a division of Fairchild Aircraft, primarily by Eugene Stoner. There's no Armando Light involved.
Defabricated. Wow, okay.
And Roberto del Rosario and karaoke. Many Filipinos believe he invented it.
Yeah, I've heard that one a lot.
But the World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO, actually recognizes Daisuke Inouye from Japan as the inventor of the first karaoke-style machine. Del Rosario did patent a version later, but Inouye's came first.
So, again, maybe a kernel of truth involvement, but twisted into sole invention.
Precisely. Or Daniel Dingle and the infamous water-powered car.
Oh, yeah, that story surfaces every now and then.
Big claims, even attracted Japanese investors at one point. But ultimately, he never produced a verifiable working engine based on his claims. It led to lawsuits before he passed away.
Right, and it goes beyond modern inventions, too, doesn't it? There are historical ones.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The Code of Calantiao is a classic example.
An ancient legal code.
Supposedly. But it was definitively exposed as a historical forgery back in the 1960s by the historian William Henry Scott. It was created by a man named Jose E. Marco.
Debunked in the 60s.
Yes. Yet, despite being known as a fake, President Ferdinand Marcos later established the Order of Calantiao Award and declared a Calantiao shrine as sacred ground.
Even after it was known to be a forgery, that's something.
It shows how persistent these things can be, even against scholarly consensus. Similar to the Tatsade tribe discovery.
Which turned out to be a hoax.
Widely acknowledged now as a likely hoax orchestrated during the Marcos era.
And it's not just old history. There are recent examples.
Yeah, even simple things. Like a fake etymology for the Filipino slang word churva circulated a while back.
Trova.
Yeah, claiming it came from a specific Greek word. It was completely made up, but it even got printed in some newspaper columns for a bit.
Seriously? That just shows.
Wow. It shows that this tendency towards, perhaps, uncritical acceptance of appealing stories continues. It connects all these examples. Flores, San Juan, Lighted, Del Rosario, Dingle, Calantiao, Tassade, Cherva.
What's the common thread, then?
The sources suggest a potential dearth of critical thinking, a failure, collectively sometimes, to interrogate those tales that fly in the face of logic.
Especially when the story feels good or confirms a bias.
Exactly. Tales that, especially today, could have easily been verified. Just a little bit of digging.
And the consequences of just accepting these things.
Well, the long-term consequence is building a sense of identity, history, and even scientific understanding on a foundation of, well, sand, not rock. It can hinder genuine progress and understanding.
But, you know, there's a flip side to finding out the truth, isn't there? It can be empowering.
Absolutely. There was a quote from someone who learned the Flores myth was false. They said, "My little world crumbled."
Yeah, that initial shock.
But as quickly as my world crumbled, it also rebuilt itself into something better.
That's fantastic. It's like the truth might hurt initially, but it leads to stronger foundations.
Exactly. And that really highlights the value of critical thinking. It's not just about debunking things.
It's a skill for life.
Fundamentally, it's not about knowing what to believe in, right? It's about learning to constantly ask questions and seek answers.
Being curious, skeptical in a healthy way.
Yes. It allows you to learn on your own, through your own learning paths, no matter how meandering. It fosters real intellectual independence.
And it separates true dignity from just pride, maybe?
That's a great way to put it. One source contrasted dignity, which they linked to a love and respect for truth, with mere pride, which can just be an attitude sometimes based on falsehoods. Dignity comes from knowing the truth, respecting it.
And the great thing is, we don't need the myths. There are real Filipino innovators.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
People whose stories are true and equally, if not more, inspiring because they're real.
Like Ramon Barba.
Yes. His work on inducing flowering in mango trees using potassium nitrate, it completely revolutionized the Philippine mango industry. That's huge.
A genuine game changer. Or Lucille Abad.
Her research into using seaweed carbohydrates as a plant food supplement, essentially a natural fertilizer. That's cutting-edge, important work.
These are the stories that deserve the spotlight that should be in the textbooks. Real achievements.
Precisely. Celebrating genuine accomplishment provides a much stronger, more authentic basis for national pride.
So wrapping this up, this whole deep dive into Agapito Flores, it's more than just a history, correct?
Oh, definitely. It's really a potent reminder, isn't it?
Yeah.
About our collective responsibility to check facts, to value truth over comforting fiction.
Yeah. How we understand our past, how we understand science, it really shapes who we are now and where we're going.
And building that understanding on solid ground, on verifiable truths, makes for a much more resilient and ultimately more meaningful sense of self, both individually and collectively.
Absolutely. Look, those stories of incredible ingenuity, of national pride, they are compelling. They draw us in.
They really do.
But real strength, real progress comes from sticking to the truth, even when it's maybe less glamorous or requires revising what we thought we knew.
It's about intellectual honesty.
Yeah, and that honesty lets us genuinely celebrate the real achievements, understand our history accurately, flaws and all, and build a stronger future from there.
Well said. So maybe the final thought for everyone listening is this.
Yeah.
We live in an age with more information than ever before, right? But also, perhaps, more misinformation.
A double-edged sword.
Totally. So how can each of us work on sharpening our own critical inquiry skills?
Yeah.
How do we make sure that our knowledge, our pride, everything we build our understanding on rests firmly on that bedrock of truth?
And not on the shifting sands of myth.
Exactly. What stories, maybe ones you hold dear, might actually deserve a second look, a little questioning?